here, and we'll kick things kicked off for today. So I'm excited to bring you guys some heat tonight on your Wednesday night, some Florida Coast heat. Although I don't know if you guys watching, if you guys saw the game last night. I don't know how many Heat fans we have in here, but
sure I did.
Yeah, that's right. And it's going to keep happening, baby. So the Heat is on the rise in every regards of that phrase. I'm excited to kick off our Wednesday session here. It says second session. I probably should edit that slide. It is not the second session. But we are approaching our second monthly TLA prep session. So I want to real quickly friendly reminder of assignments. Some of these are old at this point in time. As of now, if you haven't done so, you're already pretty late to the game, but everybody should have done an SLC push PC, and it's been really, really exciting to see some of the people that are gunners getting up your goals and getting ready to rock and roll for this push. And, you know, again, I think all of your managers know your schedule. So it's, you know, the SLC push is really an opportunity to push yourself, and it's going to look different for some of you. Now, some of you all, this is like, hey, you're not in school, or you are in school and you're still going for a 10K push, which is, by the way, I'll just tell you right now, really, really impressive if you're able to do that. And also just impressive to see where your head's at. And for some of you all, I'll be impressed to see you do a 3K push around school and classes and sports and athletics. And it shows that you're pushing yourself. And what it really shows too is you're mastering the ability to spin multiple plates at once. You know, the ability to do more than just one thing on your schedule. You know, I love TLA because, you know, oftentimes there's a lot of people that are like, oh no, Andrew, you know, I just want to do school. I just need to focus on school for the next 4 years. I just need to master this. And the reality is that there'll never be a time in your life where you just get to focus on one thing. You know, you're going to be working in school, working and also in school. You're going to graduate from school, have a career, and also have a family or a spouse or kids. And it only, by the way, just for the record, it only gets harder. And there only gets more and more stuff that you have to balance on your plate as you get older. And so you guys are really learning those skills. And I think even if it is doing a 2K, 3K, 5K push, whatever that looks like for SLC, you're learning the skills of, hey, how do I still succeed and perform, but still be able to not have to drop all the other priorities and go 100% all in on Cutco like I may have done for the SE2 push. How do I have consistency and results and still experience success while still being able to have my cake and eat it too with the other things that I want to be able to do. And for some of you all, it will be, hey, go hard in the paint. This is a time to reinvigorate that spirit that you may have lost, you know, coming off of the summer. And you get a chance to kind of do that here. So I'm also excited. This next assignment that I'll give you guys will be revealed tonight. It will be a shorter one. It'll be that 20-minute video. But we're going to dive into a little bit of one of my favorite things, which is learning the concept of journaling and how that can help you in your business and also in life. So that will come up. And then I've also been, I like to see, I think Gabriel, you posted already getting ahead on the 1 minute manager. And I've seen some other people already getting ahead of that too. So that will be due by the next prep. I gave you guys the PDF and the audio. So whatever floats your boat, whichever one you prefer, if you like to read, if you like to listen, either works. It's a total of, like, if you listen to the whole thing, I think an hour and a half book. You know, or it's a book you could probably read in one sitting. Certain enough, kind of small and easy, but I still think there's a lot of goods and a lot of value in just learning how to manage yourself and managing other people in that video. And happy to announce the Rachel Richards course will be dropping here in just, I think tomorrow is the day that the first course will drop. So you guys will be on the lookout for that. I know you guys are receiving emails from her, and we will do some of that stuff in conjunction with TLA and with our preps, having debrief conversations about what we're learning in that. And you can feel free to take it at your own speed, meaning, you know, you guys sign up for the course. So if you want to get ahead, if you're more eager as the course gets released, you know, you can totally do that, and feel free to jump ahead on some of the money stuff, money honey stuff here as we're cranking. You know, fall cruising contest, as you guys know, is in full swing as we kick off our SLC push. I'll save a little bit of the SLC push to our 6 p.m. phone jam kickoff here. But I will tell you guys right now, like, it always, anytime that you're selling, performing, there is like timeliness to it, meaning that now's a really good time to sell. It's not very often where you have multiple contests happening at the same time, where it's like, hey, you put in the same amount of effort and it's rewarded double, triple. It's rewarded in your TLA matrix score. It's rewarded in your SLC push contest and prizes. It's rewarded in the fact that you'll probably be more on pace to the fall cruising contest, because these two contests overlap at the exact same time. So definitely take advantage of that as we enter into the push. And you guys know, so we have some stuff up for grabs. Also happy to announce and excited to announce we will have some alliance calls. So bringing back to the fire. I know some of you guys are in high school, and these 9 a.m. ones will be hard to make, but for any of you guys that are college students or have more flexible schedules with your meetings, we will have some alliance calls. It will not be every single day, but we will have some key calls there. And I love these calls. And as you go through TLA, what I want to challenge you guys to do is you hop on these calls, not only focus on your own personal skill set and development, but I would really challenge yourself to say, hey, what did I hear this summer that I just wasn't in the right perspective, or maybe I wasn't doing, or maybe I heard it before and I haven't started doing it yet? And what can I still learn and be implementing? And then some of these calls, you're like, I already know how to do this stuff. So what I want you to pay attention to is, like, as a TLA member, is cool. How could you teach this stuff? So when the next push rolls around and I say, hey, does anyone want to run an alliance meeting for the division or run alliance meeting for the team? There's some people maybe even in the TLA class that can say, hey, honestly, I feel like I could run that talk and give it to talk. Pass me the ball, Andrew. Let me run that one for the division. And that could be some exciting practice for our future aspiring branch managers here. As you guys know, the hashtag that we've been bringing about is the year before the big year. And man, it continues to feel that way. I just got off a great coaching call with a guy named Brian Lum, and we were talking about just some of the energy that this team has exiting the summer as we enter into the fall. And I really feel like this team is both metaphorically and metaphorically and literally on fire. And it's exciting to see where we're building, where we're taking this. And I really want to challenge you guys that if we want to create a massive year, and this is not just a big year in Cutco, but hopefully a big year for you personally. I think about 2020 as a year where, I don't know, I just here my call with this guy was just like, hey, that's really great, Andrew, that you guys are doing so great and you're expanding when most of the world is contracting. In a time period where most people are getting smaller, contracting, everything's getting tighter, like things are not getting better. For myself personally, I think for a lot of people in this call, like, you're expanding yourself, you're developing yourself, you're fighting after that best version of yourself and creating a better and bigger and more epic 2021 for yourself, both inside and outside of Cutco. So to kick off our Leadership Academy call here for today, just a reminder of a couple important dates that y'all should probably have on the calendar. So we have our second TLA prep coming up on September 26th. That's my birthday present to you all, is running that prep. So I'm excited to connect with everybody on that day. And that will be our second one. And it will be exciting to kind of, the first TLA prep, I think, kind of lays the foundation. The second one is really building off of that too. And that's when things, I think, start to get exciting. We'll have one more in October before we kick off the Secure the Cut push. And then we have our Fall Classic event, wrap up with our TLA prep number 4, which is right around December. And by the way, we'll see, we typically like to do some holiday parties and some fun things. Maybe that will be the first time for some of us that we're ever coming together physically in person in some of our hubs and cities. I obviously can't guarantee that yet. We have to see what the tide is like when we get to that time period. But some future things to be on the lookout for. So today's the day. Tomorrow kicks off our SLC push, and I want to give you guys a couple of reminders as we go into this time period and phase. We had a great staff meeting on Tuesday with our district manager team, talking about the future of our division and what we're building towards. And, as we actually, what we did, by the way, just so you guys are aware, tomorrow or Friday, we will release our first TLA matrix score rankings. Part of the reason why they haven't been released yet, and if you guys have noticed, a lot of you all submitted additional startup monies on tour, and they just have not showed up in your account. So that will show up tomorrow on Thursday's commission run. We had some sort of slight issue with the corporate national office, which is processing that too. So it's already there, and it will show up tomorrow. But once I get that official report, I'll update the official totals of where everybody's at and all the respective stats and rank out our candidates. But what we did yesterday with our district team is we went through literally every single candidate and on this TLA call, every single person on a roster who were new candidates that were making their way in. Where were people at currently? We did an exercise of just saying, hey, who right now is standing out, who right now is not standing out and maybe needs some encouragement or support or a little kick in the butt, and who's doing well. So we just kind of ranked the candidates, seeing who's on pace for branch, who's on pace for district. And right now it's still so early in the game. And I want to just let you know that regardless of where we ranked you on that sheet, you can be at the bottom of the barrel. And I've had some of our best branch manager performers have been like barely struggling, barely hanging in there, I barely even knew who they were you know, going into the end of September, and they become some of our best performers the following summer. And just because you're on top and just because you've been performing, you know, you have to continue to do that. You have to continue to show up and continue to make a statement. So some things to be on the lookout there. As you guys know, there's different rankings: startup, personal sales, management skills, fall campaign, personal sales, and intangibles, which we will be talking about shortly. I want to remind you guys one other thing too, is our some financial best practices. So I've gotten a couple texts here, and I know there's some of you all, I'm going to adjust, there's like the sun right in my face here. I know there's some of you all that have been doing this, and some of you all have probably spent $100 and have not been doing this. So my recommendation to you is this, is again, continue to follow and execute the $100 rule, which is just if you are going to make a purchase that is larger than $100, reach out to me. Just send me just a little text or a blurb of what you're thinking about purchasing, and hopefully we can offer you some perspective. And again, just by doing that, what's going to happen, let's see if I can pull this down here. There we go. Just by doing that, you're going to do two things. Number one, a lot of times you just won't even text me, which is probably the best part, because those are the ones that, you know, like, yeah, I'm not even going to ask Andrew this. This is probably a waste of money, and probably should be a little bit smarter about it. At other times, you'll be able to walk through a good financial just process of, should I spend money on this? You know, and everyone's different. Some of you all are spenders and you spend a lot of money, like just money all the time. Some of you all like never spend money, but then you just make giant, big purchases. That was kind of me a lot of times in college. And by the way, myself, Mike, and some of the other veterans in the room, you know, I made a lot of money in college, and I made a lot of smart money decisions. I also made a lot of dumb ones, multiple times. I could list them out. So, you know, I'll try to save you guys some learning curve. And again, I was in a spot graduating from college where I was able to have almost $100,000 saved. But, you know, I think about kind of, if you guys ever have like the older brother that's like really, really good at sports, and then the younger brother comes in and he's like even better at like every single sport because he's been like playing with his older brother for years who is already good, and like it shortened that learning curve process for him. That's what I want to happen for you all financially. You know, I want you guys to be able to graduate college with a lot more money than I had saved, and better financial positions, making better financial decisions, and hopefully we can help you out with that process. So continue to execute on the $100 rule. And I want to do some recognition of some people that have been hopping on the decision train, making the decision and making the commitment to get a letter of intent in. And I'll just tell you one thing right now, and I can already see it from the people that have letters in versus the people that do not have letters in. Because a lot of you all have, like, you know, discussed like, yeah, I really want to be XYZ, or I'm really excited, I'm really committed, I'll do anything that it takes, but you don't have a letter of intent in yet. And it's still earlier on in the game. There's still plenty of time. It's not a rush thing. But I will tell you is that once you get a letter of intent submitted, the level and quality of your training just changes. You know, you just show up to meetings differently because you're like, shit, like I'm going to run an office next summer, so I better figure this damn thing out, you know, versus like, you know, I'm going to learn this stuff and maybe I'll be a branch manager, you know, we'll see how it goes, you know. But once you make that commitment, it's just a different game. And a lot of times that can give you a new wave of energy and excitement for what you're training for. I want to recognize two of our newest letters of intent. One came in last week, Nick Franklin. I also want to recognize our newest district manager letter of intent that was submitted by, I'm going to spotlight him real quickly, Tyler Tarmy. Submitted his district manager letter of intent. So congratulations, sir, on getting that submitted here. And yeah, congratulations on making your, I guess, commitment towards doing the work that's required to earn your district manager spot. So now it's time to go out and earn it. A couple other things. I want to announce some new and late acceptances as well for our TLA class here. So 3 people that have just recently, and some of them were like a week or 2 ago, but we're just now officially announcing them. And I'll continue to announce any new members and new candidates that have gotten accepted into our Covenant Leadership Academy. But to the following people, we have a 1 in a couple different offices. To Alani Scott in Tampa, congratulations on hitting that 10K mark and officially being accepted. And to TLA, Yasmin Baroni in Clearwater, and Tasso, who's been around since like the beginning of the summer and has now officially been accepted into the Leadership Academy. So congratulations to you 3. I want to recap here real quickly. Before I dive into our content for today, I kind of want to give you guys a strategic reminder, if you will, on the first TLA lesson that we taught. Like literally the first meeting that we talked about situational leadership. And there's a reason, by the way, that I start off TLA with this concept. There's a reason this is the first thing that we teach every single year. And again, I want to remind you guys that you're going to go through these different phases, D1, D2, D3, D4, anytime that you're starting something new. So if you're in TLA right now, everyone's going through this stuff. Now, a Mason Linker, third time going through TLA, it's a little bit different. You don't have to experience as much of these ups and downs. He's probably riding in this area for the most part. But, when Mason goes, if Mason goes out, it's even different for his branch manager experience. But I can even say this for our assistant managers. Some of you have been through TLA once. You were an assistant manager this summer. You're going through it. Second time's a lot easier. You're going to start this process all over again when you become a branch. When you go out in the summer, you're going to be right back to D1, which is low competence or low competence and a high commitment level. That's where everybody starts. So I want to share this because there's a lot of you all that are now kind of emerging into that D2 phase. Some of you guys are just starting it, and some of you all are in the thick of it right now. Some of you guys, again, you're feeling great. You're feeling good. This is not going to come up for you for maybe another month or two, but I want to remind you of what it's like to be in D2. And you can just look at this real quickly, okay? D2, typical feelings of day 2 are overwhelmed, confused, demotivated, demoralized, frustrated, disillusioned, discouraged, still learning, inconsistent, flashes of competence. If that sounds like you raise your hand. I'm just kidding, don't do that. But if that is you, you know who you are. And it's funny too, because I even got a couple, and this is why I knew this is important to go over, because when it happens, I get messages from not just one person, but from 6 or 7 people, and I've gotten multiple of those messages in the past week of hey, Andrew, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. I don't feel motivated right now. I'm kind of stressed. I just feel I don't know. Sometimes I'm good and other times I'm not. I'm just kind of frustrated with where I'm at. I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I'm just not motivated to do anything right now. It doesn't make sense to me. And so I want to give you guys some clarity and support to be okay with feeling that way, because that's exactly how you're supposed to feel, at this point in the process. That actually is a good sign. That means you are going through the growing stages of development. And that's a normal part of the process. That doesn't make it any easier to go through, but it is a normal part of the process, and so it's not strange. It's not weird to be feeling some of these feelings as you go through the TLA process, or just as you go into a period of growth is really what we're talking about. It'd be different if you were just in school and it was easy and you wouldn't necessarily be experiencing this, but if you're pushing yourself, if you are growing, if you are expanding your capacity, if you are juggling school and TLA and other stuff that's going on in your life, then, at one point or another, it's not strange, or also being on a staff, it's not strange to be feeling this way. So, I want to just give you guys a couple quick reminders before we dive into the content of number 1, the needs of D2, and number 2, how to navigate through the D2 stage. I think that's the most important, is to know okay, cool. Number 1, have awareness of, hey, where am I actually at on this radar? Where am I actually at right now? So I know how to lead myself through that time period. And people that are going through that D2 phase, they need involvement in clarifying goals and actions. That means, when you're going through D2, you want to talk to your managers more. You want to rely more heavily on them. You want more support. You want more direction during that type perspective, that progress is made. I've been reaching out to managers and other people that can hold you accountable, and they can give you some direction on where you're growing and where you could still use some support. Assurance is what you need. Sometimes that's okay to make mistakes. Some of you all are trying new roles. You're in different leadership positions, and you're damn it, I'm not perfect after this. They're being on a staff or a leadership role for 3 or 4 weeks, or I haven't mastered all this stuff, and it takes time. Opportunity to be heard, again, getting more calls in with a person or a manager or a leader. Whenever you are going through a struggling time, that's when you want to increase communication, not decrease it. Need coaching, build skills, praise for progress, and help in analyzing success and mistakes. So here's, and we'll talk about this quite a bit, not the main message for today, but here's the 3 steps. I mentioned this in our first TLA prep. I said this would come later on in TLA, so today's when it's coming. 3 steps to attack D2. And these are just the 3 things that I just generally say, hey, if you're going through D2, or for those of you guys that's not how you're feeling at all right now, and eventually you will feel a little bit of that way. These are the 3 things that I'm gonna. There we go. these are the three things that you need to be paying attention to and that you need to be doing. So number one, those 3 red circles, who knows what those are? You can tell me that one.
Circle of influence.
Circles of influence, okay? Whenever you're going through D2, you need to be more aware than ever of who are your circles of influence. Who am I being influenced by? You know, I find it oftentimes, by the way, when you're going through D2, you're being influenced by people that are not necessarily helping you. And that's uncommon, you know, and that could be, hey, I just got to college and all my fraternity, I'm trying to like be focused in school, and all my fraternity brothers are like hitting me up every damn day to go do something. And I'm trying to stay focused on my goals, but like, and they're like, why the hell are you working, dude? Like, what is these why are you always on your laptop? Like, let's go party, you know, whatever it is. Like that might be it. It might be, hey, mom and dad are like in my ear, like 24/7 being like, your grades aren't good. Like, why are you doing, like, you know, they're like, whatever it is, you know, that might be a negative influence. And by the way, might not, could be positive influence. They could be the ones praising, cheering you on, encouraging you, you know, supporting you through the process. And I would just become more aware of like, hey, who are the people that are like helping me right now, and who's sapping my energy? Who's making it harder for me to do what I actually want to do, and who's making it really easier for me to do? You know, and that again could be, who are 3 people that I'm learning from, receiving mentorship and guidance? Who are 3 people that I'm learning with? Like, have you evaluated who are my circles in TLA yet? Do you have positive circles in TLA? And again, like typically when people are going through D2, they start hanging out with a lot of other people that are also going through D2. And they all get negged together. And they're all like, you know, and they go a little have this in the corner and have a pity party where they're like, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, me too. I'm not like, yeah, me too, you know. And they have like, they just join up together. So if you're going through D2, link up with some other people that maybe aren't, and that can encourage you, or maybe a veteran, you know, or someone that's already been through NOG that's like not going through that right now, right? And again, it's not like, don't hang out with me because you're, you know, in D2 or something like that. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying be more conscious and aware of like who you are being influenced by. And the last thing is like, maybe are you teaching for some people? I'll tell you what, a lot of times when I have been just negative or less excited about my role or what I'm doing in the moment, what's always kind of invigorated me is when I have other people that I'm excited to help. You know, when I have other people that are counting on me to lead, inspire, and impact them, like I just show up better. And a lot of times it re-encourages and reinvigorates and re-excites me too. So number 1, focus on your circles of influence. Number 2, planning. Almost always when people are feeling stressed and overwhelmed and don't know what's going on, you know, if I told you to show me your planner, it's probably not filled out. You know, you probably don't have the next 2 weeks mapped out. You probably don't have everything buttoned up in your schedule. And I can't tell you how many times, like even when I was in college, I would be feeling that way. I'd be feeling overwhelmed and stressed. And like, I'd take an hour or two, get everything on paper, get everything planned out. And it doesn't make you feel perfect, but it does make you feel a lot better when you're like, all right, you know, like I can do this. This is not that hard. I feel like I can, you know, follow this schedule. I can follow this plan. I've got a plan. Right? When you don't have a plan and you just have a lot of stress, that stress becomes a lot more stressful because it's like you're stressed and you don't have any idea how you're going to deal with the stress. There is no plan, you know, and the longer that you stay operating without a plan, the longer you're planning to fail. And the last thing is just revisiting your why, you know, and I want to recommend, like you guys, a lot of you all went through an SE2 push this summer, you know, and like you kind of remember there was a period of time, more likely than not, where you felt like giving up, quitting, and being like, why the hell am I even doing this? Why am I waking up every morning and hopping on these calls? Why am I still doing all these damn appointments? Why am I working so hard for this right now? And what helps is reminding yourself of like, cool, why did I do this in the first place? Why was I originally excited for this? Why did I want this 2 weeks ago? What was I invigorated by? What was my why when I started this? And revisiting that why. Because if you don't have any why or any drive towards what you're doing, then it's a lot easier to quit or give up on yourself or lose sight of what you actually set out to do. So just reconnecting to that why, I think, can be really, really big for a lot of people. And that's a little bit what we'll talk about today, is just the power of journaling and how that can maybe help you do all 3 of these things here as we're talking and continuing on. So last week we talked a little bit about, oops, you guys can't even see my screen here. I thought I was sharing the screen for a while. You guys hopefully saw this part. So revisiting why. Last week we talked about the 5 love languages. So I got a little funny in here, just as a reminder to understand which love languages are what. So words of affirmations, if this was if we're talking about tacos, words of affirmations is your tacos are delicious. Acts of service is I made you tacos. Receiving gifts is here's a taco. Quality time is let's go out for tacos together, and physical touch would be like let me hold you like a taco. That's just put that in there as a reminder here from coming off of last week. So maybe some light bulbs there. Our TLA lesson for today, it's called RPM. So I'd write this down in your notes, RPM. Yeah, I know especially if you're in the Tampa organization, I know you've heard this one before. If you've ever gone through any push period before in Tampa, I'm sure this was one that was discussed about. But this is something from that I think was created or at least coined by or made famous by the great Tony Robbins. And it's a really good way of helping yourself just get back to the core of why you're doing what you're doing. I think it's a really good way of helping you go back to here and revisit that why of why you're doing what you're doing. And it stands for results, purpose, and MAP, which stands for massive action plan, right? Massive action plan. And this is like, by the way, really simple. It's really simple and really, really powerful. As a lot of the things that we've learned, I think in TLA are most of the concepts that like are transformative and separate people that are highly, highly successful and people that are not as highly successful are usually pretty simple. Most financial strategies and tips are like not that crazy to do. It's like, hey, 40% of your money goes to the government, 40% goes into, an investments or savings you pay yourself, and 20% goes back to you. It's pretty simple. It's 3 numbers. Most people, 99% of the population doesn't do that. Most success things are very simple, but it's the execution of them that makes them powerful. So, this is when you're going through D2 or really anytime. I encourage you guys to try this out before you go into the push, meaning you start off with number 1, which is the results. Like, what results do I want to have? What are the results that I want? What do you want, right? What do you really, really want? And if you're journaling, this is the exercise, by the way. This is the easiest way to go through a journaling exercise. And we're going to talk a little bit about the value of journaling, more so on our next call. But this is just a kind of quick outline for what you can do if you wanted to like anytime that you're having like a lot of stuff going on in your head or you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, just take out a pen and paper and write this stuff out and just be like, all right, cool. Well, what do I want right now? I want to have a 20K push. I want to do well in school. I want to have good relationships with my family. I want to be happy. I want to get really, really fit. I want to sleep better. I want to like whatever it is. I don't care. What do you want? It's like, what do you want right now? What is important to you? What do you want? Right. And then make that specific, not just kind of general. It's like, what do you really want? Like, what does that look like? Right. What is the outcome there? Not much like, all right, I want to sleep better. It's like, cool. I want to start sleeping 7 hours a night. I want to start prioritizing XYZ, like make it specific and measurable. What is the specific result that you want to be able to receive as you're actually going through this process? So starting off with the first one is, again, what do you want? Second thing is purpose.
Can I speak to that real fast?
Yeah,
I know you're in.
I would love you to. I wasn't sure if you were on, Mike. I was gonna actually call on you because.
Dude, you're in flow.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've been on. I'm posting in the TLA chat to get some chatter because apparently nobody's getting light bulbs from anything that you're spitting fire on right now. But so sometimes we know what we want, or we have an idea of what we want, but we can't really pinpoint it or contextualize it. So a healthy exercise is to answer the question of, what don't I want? What do I not want? And sometimes doing the opposite of what don't I want? Well, I don't want to be relying on my parents. I don't want to be, 400 pounds. I don't want to be sick in a hospital and not have anyone love me while I'm on my deathbed. I don't want to live on a street corner asking for money, right? Like, so you can make a list of all the things you don't want. And that sometimes is easier to help you get clarity of the things that you do want. So then you say, okay, I don't want this. Well, what do I want? And then you could ask that question. So just in case if you get stuck of what do you want, you're like, shit, I don't really know. Well, what don't you want? Well, maybe that can help. Maybe that can help. And that's why that COI is important, because if you're surrounding yourself around people that create discomfort, like when I hang out with Mike Chu, and he just told me, he's like, yeah, my business just brought in $200,000 in profits last month. I got uncomfortable. I was like, fuck you. Like there was a piece of me that was uncomfortable. I was talking to Rob Dow. He's like, yeah, my coaching business just brought in 160 grand last month. I said, great. F you. I was fired up. My business brought in 35 grand last month in profits. I was fired up until I spoke to you, jerk. But the bottom line is because I'm surrounded by someone who makes me uncomfortable, it gets me to think bigger about my opportunity. So sometimes we don't want to associate with discomfort because it makes us feel inadequate. But what Andrew's telling you right now is figure out what you want. Forget about the feelings that go behind what you want. Just figure out what do you want and what do you not want. And if you can get clear on that, then we could tie emotional juice behind it. Let's get emotional juice behind those things that you want to give you enough reason to level up. So maybe I don't want to have $200,000 a month in revenue. Maybe it would be nice. Maybe it would be nice, but do I actually want it? Because then when I say, well, why do I want it? Is there enough juice to work that hard, to compromise, to sacrifice? I don't know if I want to sacrifice the time and energy and my purpose and my relationships to create that. Maybe I want it, but maybe I don't want it bad enough that I'm willing to compromise. So why do I want that? That's what Andrew's about to transition into, because you figure out what you want, but you have to have emotional juice. Mason and I were talking today. He's like, I want to run $1 million operation next summer between him, his office, and his branches. I said, great. Well, that's awesome that you want it. Well, let's talk about why do you want it, and are you willing to do what it takes to get there? Well, those are the next steps. And he said, well, shit, that means I'm going to have to miss a football game from FSU. Well, what do you want more? What do you want more? And now you are at least in control of decision making. But you're in control of decision making. That's what Andrew's talking about here is like you're becoming conscious. And then you at least are taking responsibility, hence becoming a leader, hence why it's called Leadership Academy. It's not Sell, Cut, Go, More Academy. It's Leadership Academy. And you could use this as a platform and a vehicle to help you sell more if you're using some of this stuff. So back to you. That was I was like containing myself, posting in the chat box, like taking, but.
No, I love it. And like I said, spoken like a true veteran. Mike, someone that I have been inspired by Mike teaching this concept multiple times, and some of Mike's push too. So thanks, Mike, for chiming in here. And to his point, that next step is focusing on the why behind it. What is the juice behind that, what you actually want? And by the way, like, I think as you go through this, like to Mike's point, it will help you eliminate distractions and get more focused and more clear on what you actually want. Because if I have all these, I kind of want this, and I kind of want this, and I kind of want this, well, that's great. But like, it's like, what do you actually want? And by going through that exercise, you're going to eliminate and cross certain things off and be like, you know what? I don't actually really want that. I say I want it, but it's like, and what you're going to do is you're going to lower the burden off yourself, because a lot of times we want like 20 different things and they're in different directions. But we can be clear on what it is that we actually want. It's easier to make quality decisions. It's easier to say yes to the things we should be saying yes to, and it's easier to say no to the things we should be saying no to, because you are clear on what it is that you actually want, and you're not filled with all these distractions or all the other things that you think you kind of want, but what is important to you too. So purpose, why do you really want to do this? What is your purpose? What does this mean to you? And that's when you search for more like journal on like, cool, why do I want to have XYZ relationship with my family? Why do I want to have this push? Like, if I have this push, what will this do for me? What is the specifics of why this matters? And what are all the whys and the purpose behind those results? It's like you have the measurable, and then you have the reasons why that are filling behind. The last thing is like the map. It's the massive action plan. It's like, okay, cool. You know what you want now. You know why you want it. How are you going to go out and get it? What is the game plan? And then you can follow through. And again, when you go through this exercise, it makes it easier to make quality decisions, as smart business people do. It makes it easier to say yes to things that are aligned with what you actually want and what you desire. And it makes it easier to say no to things that are going to take you off the path from what you actually want and what you actually desire. And you have clarity and awareness on that too. So what specific actions will you take? And again, it's always the more specific you can make these, the better. You don't want to put things like, okay, I'm going to work harder. I'm going to try more. I'm going to do my best. Now it's like, all right, cool. No, I'm committing. I want this goal, and I'll give you as a sales example, because that's just the most easiest one, as we talked about, was run to push, but you can make this tangible for anything. But it's like, hey, you might have a sales goal. Great. I want to sell 20K. That's really important to me. I really want to do that. Cool. Here's all the reasons why I want to do that. It's going to help me out in TLA. It's going to make me, I'm going to make this much income. With this much income, I'm going to be able to do this that I've wanted to do for a long time. It's going to mean I'm at this in career sales. I'm going to make a statement to here. I'm going to make a statement to myself. I got all the reasons why. What's the specific action plan? Here's the days I'm pushing. Here's how many phone calls like I'm going to commit to making, because I know if I make this amount of phone calls, I'm going to create this results. And when you are attached to the purpose and the results that you want to create, then like making 50 phone calls in a phone jam, it's just not that hard, because like you're not just making 50 phone calls in a phone jam. Like you're following your purpose and your why and chasing after the results that you really, really want to have, versus just like, I need to make these calls because my manager told me I need to make at least 50 phone calls in the phone jam tonight if I want to hit this goal that I don't really care about. You know, you'll have more power and purpose what you're doing. It's like, hey, I'm going to go to bed earlier because I know why I want to get, you know, XYZ amount of sleeps. Hey, I'm going to start doing blank. You got to make it sure it's specific and specific boundaries and specific commitments and deadlines and benchmarks for yourself here too. So, Mike, anything else to add on just the RPM method in general?
I think that it just, the habitual pattern that goes behind it. In fact, I just, I posted that's fun for me because the screenshot, I haven't read my own book in a year. I read it every year, but I knew I put this in my book. If you look at the screenshot that I took, it says the why power. And I put it in, I can't share my screen, but if you look at it and just read what I put there of the intrinsic motivation, the why power of creating that routine. So I shared that with you. What I'm doing right now is I'm actually going to do a relaunch of this book because I've referenced it so many different times, and I'm working with Amazon right now on my account to see if I could do a free book launch for at least the ebook. And if I can get that done, I'll send the link out. I highly recommend you to pick it up. It's really, really good. It's a small, simple read. The whole book is like maybe 60 pages, but these concepts of RPM are in this book. This literally transformed my entire life. Almost everything I have came by asking these questions. So it's not just words on a paper. You do this stuff. It can create lots of transformation. And I know, to spotlight Charissa, Charissa's been reading this book. I gifted one to her, and she actually told me today in our conversation that she stood up in class and started teaching some of this. I'm not host, but I can't spotlight her, but if I was, or co-host, if you want to make me co-host, but she talked about the book in her class and was sharing some of these concepts. It was like, I was, number one, honored, and I love that. But I also was reminded that these are really great principles that you can easily use that I live by on the daily. And you're right. #Vector Train. That's right. I mean, that's I love that. Juliana stood corrected. So that's what I got on that.
Yeah, it's Juliana. I'll get it right.
She's Juliana.
Juliana. That's what she's right. Juliana. All right. Ladies and gents, we're going to move on a little bit from this topic. And again, I just want to remind you guys, I would just try doing this. My challenge to you, outside of listening to the Jim Rohn audio on journaling, because we're going to dive and follow up on this concept a little bit more, is to just try doing this for yourself one time. Like, do this for yourself for the push. See if you can just go through this exercise today or tomorrow before you enter into the heat of your push. And it will be easier to take the actions. It will be easier to be committed. It will be easier to be clear on what it is exactly that you want. And again, I would go back to these three things if you're diving through D2. So I'm going to go ahead and forward our assignment into the group chat. As I just did. It's How to Use a Journal by Jim Rohn. It's just a very, very basic audio. Jim Rohn is he is one of the gurus, if you will, when it comes to the world of just personal development. He's one of the best. Like most people that you guys, there's like the entrepreneur, public speaker, motivational, personal development guy gurus out there. And then there's like the ones that all those guys learn from, like Jim Rohn is one of those guys. He's one of the classics, one of the greats. And so I'm excited to get you guys some exposure to that. And we'll dive in a little bit more to journaling on next week, but just make sure you listen to that, and we'll have a place for you to turn in and submit notes before next Wednesday. Matrix scores are coming up here in a little bit. And for time-wise, let's see how we're doing here. I think I'm going to go into I'll give you guys a couple tips here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about PR calling. And this is going to replace a little bit of our fishbowl scenarios for the evening. I want to just kind of give you guys some quick tips on here, and then we'll have a quick little 10-minute fishbowl scenario when it comes to PR calling. So raise your hand just to get some clarification. Raise your hand if you have made a PR call before, or you've scheduled PRs before. All right, that's like 90% of the group. Raise your hand if you haven't made a PR call yet. All right, there's a couple out there. Cool. So if you haven't, you're good. Don't worry, you're in the clear. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about that process. So this is going to be slightly more advanced just for people that have never made one. But for most of you all, it's going to be right spot on with kind of what you need right now when it comes to it. So I know a lot of you guys are already in the process of calling PRs. PR stands for personal recruit. That's when we schedule someone that was recommended for an interview for the actual position as an applicant. And by the way, one of the reasons why this is a TLA skill set, and what I love about TLA is that we're not just teaching you leadership skills. We're teaching you leadership skills, and you also have a vehicle to implement them in. You know, you can take and sign up for other leadership classes. Like all the stuff we're teaching you here, I'm pretty sure you can go on Google, YouTube. They have a lot of stuff out there. The World Wide Web is filled with outside of information. But it's one thing to just listen and learn about leadership. It's another thing to actually implement it. It's one thing to learn about, rapport building skills and closing skills and influence skills. It's another thing to actually have a vehicle where you can practice those. And, the PR calling for me in a recruiting world, in a recruiting company, that's it starts off with that. Your ability to make a good PR call is reflective in your ability to be a good manager always and ever. And any good manager in the company is typically really good at making PR calls. Anyone that struggles to make PR calls typically struggles to be a good manager because it takes specific skills. So I want to give you guys just a couple quick tips here as we talk about PR calling. And this is just going to be a couple quick tips to scheduling. So, and actually, I kind of already ruined it by saying that, but who knows? Metro Miami staff, you better know this one. Who knows the number one, actually fast forward a year ago, before we were doing virtual interviews, does anyone know the number one reason why someone would not show up to a job interview or not show up specifically to one of our interviews?
They're lost.
There you go. I love it. Okay. That was it. Directions and them being lost. And a lot of times, when I hear new recruiters, they're like, oh, Andrew, no one's showing up because they thought it was a scam, or no one's showing up because no one's looking for work right now. That's what you hear. But the real reason that people don't show up, okay, this is just, again, statistically measured. The number one reason someone doesn't show up to the job interview is just because they got lost or didn't have good directions, meaning they didn't know when the interview was, they went out to the interview at the wrong time, they went to the wrong building, they didn't make it in time. There's countless people when we used to run in-person interviews that would drive out to the office, not make it in time for it, and just not even show up. And they didn't have the phone number written down, so they wouldn't call either. They just wouldn't show up to the interview. That happens every single interview we've ever ran. Now, guess what? It's still the same thing in the virtual environment. They just don't actually get physically lost. They just get directionally lost. They just don't click on the link. They don't get the email. They don't know when their interview time is. They're not scheduled in the right way. So the easiest way to improve, and I know that seems psychologically weird. It's well, wouldn't it be rapport building or connection? No, it's just the steps to scheduling. And the way that you go about scheduling something is the number one thing that impacts whether or not someone shows up to an interview. And so I'm going to walk you guys just real quickly. And I know a lot of you all know this. I'm going to send some PR videos into the group chat that you guys can use if you'd like. But there's a step-by-step process when we get from, okay, cool, we've explained the job details. The applicant is now at a place where they're interested, or we can begin to schedule them for an interview. And there's a specific set of steps that you want to be doing, and you walk through the steps specifically in order to make sure that you're building up urgency, because as urgency increases, their desire to be there and the show also increases, and to also make sure that's really clear and you're getting them set up for a time easily. So what is the first thing that we do before we offer them any times? What is the first thing that we do?
Get to know them and their commitments.
Yep. And okay, cool. So get to know them, which we kind of already have done. And the second thing, I wasn't sure who was chiming in. Who said it?
Leah.
Okay, cool. Perfect. And Leah, and you said get to know their what?
Their commitments, like school, work.
Cool. So essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to ask them, hey, while I'm looking at my manager's availability, why don't you just go ahead and walk me through your schedule for like the next couple of days, you know, in general. Voice inflection, by the way, there is important because you say, hey, like, what's your schedule like this week? That's not what you want to say. It's like, hey, why don't you go ahead and walk me through, like, or it's like, oh yeah, I'm busy and I got some school and I got like practice and stuff like that. And that can be really annoying if you're on a call and you're like, all right, great, but like, what's your schedule? It's like, I don't know, it's really busy. It's like, what is your schedule though? Like, you want to actually want them to like walk you through your schedule. So it's like, hey, why I'm going through my manager's availability, Joey, why don't you just go ahead and like walk me through your schedule just for the next couple of days, you know, in general. And cool. So they're going to get their schedule. Quick little tip here for you on your PR calls. Always, always, always have a notebook next to you whenever you're making PR calls. Your PR calls will get incredibly better when you're doing this, okay? Because you're doing two things. Number one, you take notes on the things that they tell you as you're building rapport with them, right? So that way you're not like, okay, cool, and you work at Starbucks and then you're doing this and you go to school at St. Leo, great, okay, cool. Hey, and by the way, Joey, where do you go to school at? Oh, shoot, you already told me that. You know, like I've seen people do that. Or like, what are you studying again? Oh, yeah. You know, like bad rapport building. It just shows that you're not actively listening. So taking a notebook can just cause you to have to actively listen, and you can actually write down their schedule as they're saying it to you. Because the second step after they give you their schedule is to do what?
Schedule them.
Nope.
Confirm their schedule.
Who knows?
Read it back.
There you go, Hope. Nice work. Repeat it back to them. Okay. So they say, so Johnny gives me his schedule. So I'm like, all right, cool. So the second step to scheduling is I repeat this schedule back to that. I say, all right, go. Okay. So Johnny, before I go ahead and look at the availability, so again, you have class from 8 to 3 on every day this week. And then on Tuesday, you have practice from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So I repeat it back and then I go, by the way, Joey, do you have anything else that might get in the way of you making it onto an interview? Great. So I ask them for their schedule, I repeat it back to them to confirm that I heard it correctly. And then I say, all right, cool. Well, give me a couple quick seconds and let me see if we have anything available right now. Right. And this is something that's really helpful for a lot of you all. Is just, again, think about it this way, as urgency increases, show increases. Whenever especially, and a lot of you guys I put you in this category of sharp recruits, you know, when you're someone that's talented, people don't like to be handed anything. Anything that they feel like they didn't have to work for, or they were just handed, makes it less desirable. You know, if you didn't have to work for it, if it's there, if someone just handed it off to you, like you don't even really want it as much. Like, especially if you're like a high performer, like you like to work and earn things. So for anyone that's like, cool, if they just feel like this guy just called me and just like gave me a job interview out of nowhere, like I don't know if I want to go to this. That's how it feels, especially for sharp people. So you want to make them want it, right? So as you're going through this, like the worst thing that you can do is go, okay, all right, great. Well, Joey, we have an interview at Monday at 3:15. Could you make that? You know, and just offer them a time right out of the blue. What you want to do is, again, it's called the power pause, which is literally I put the phone on speaker. I'll be like, all right, cool. Well, Joey, give me one quick second. Let me see if we have anything available this week. Hold on. And I'll literally put the phone next to the computer, do some random typing, go. Okay. Good news. Like I literally like it sound like I'm excited. Like I'm like, all right, thank God I found you an interview time. I'm like, good news, Joey. I actually have a time I could squeeze you into Monday at 3:15 p.m. Could you make that time work? Right, and I'm almost assumptive that they could make it work because they just told me their schedule. I'm like, hey, could you go ahead and make that time work? Right, and I repeat it back to them slowly and make sure they have the details. Like I could squeeze you in to Monday at 3:15 p.m. Right? And as I'm doing this, by the way, okay, a couple quick things as you're doing it. So you take a power pause, you offer them and by the way, which time do I offer them?
The soonest one.
The first available time. Do I offer them the first one that they're available for necessarily? No, I offer them the first available time in the schedule. And by the way, some of you guys, like logically, you're like, but Andrew, they just told me that they were going to be really busy on Monday. I'm like, I know. But what happens is when I offer them a time on Monday, after they told me, okay, I'm kind of busy on Monday. Is there anything Tuesday? But I still offer them Monday. They're like, oh, shoot, there's not a lot of interviews. Like they know I'm busy and they're still trying to get me in on Monday at 3:15. So what happens is one of two things. They'll reschedule, which again increases urgency. And again, if someone's like, okay, in the middle, let's say someone's got classes from eight high school classes to 8 to 3. I'm probably not going to offer them a time in that day. But if they told me like, oh, I have a workout in the afternoon, I usually go to the gym. I'm like, all right, cool, Joey, could you maybe rearrange your schedule so that you could make it to the 3:15 p.m. interview and maybe hit the gym a little bit later in the evening? Could you make that time work? Right. And again, I kind of assume that they're going to go ahead and book up with that time here too. Because even if they can't, then it might be like, what happens is the next thing, which is like, okay, they go, no. Like, I really can't do that on Monday, but like, do you have anything else available? And again, what's happening, it's building their urgency of like, okay, wait, but I kind of want to get scheduled for an interview. Like, do you have anything else available? The worst thing you can do as a scheduler is to offer multiple times or just be like, yeah, we have 2 interviews on Monday. I've got 3 interviews on Wednesday. Like what time works better for you? 3:15? No, that doesn't work. You can do 2:15 on Tuesday. That's like the worst thing you can do to kill your show. It's just like, hey, we're just handing out job interviews. What time do you want? Sure, you can have that one. That's not how you want to make it feel at all, right? You want to make it feel like, hey, you're a college recruiter, where it's like, hey, I'm reaching out to you because I feel like you could be a good fit and you could be valued on this team, and we don't need you. We're not like desperate for people. Like, I got tons of people applying. I'm just reaching out because you were recommended to the position. And if you're a good fit, we're happy to interview you and consider you. And if it's a good fit, we can see from there on that interview process. So I ask them for their schedule. I repeat it back to them. I offer them the first available time. If I schedule them, I go ahead and schedule them. If they can't do that, I would offer them the next available time. And maybe even repeat back their schedule to them one more time, just to confirm. Like, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of like, okay, well, how about this time? Well, how about this time? Well, how about this time? Like, I only want to offer like 2-3 times max to try to get someone scheduled as I go through that process. And I know this stuff is like, it seems pretty simple, but this is what really impacts your PR show, is the scheduling process and how you go about scheduling someone. My last kind of quick tips on actually PR scheduling are making sure that you're taking time to have them always write things down. You just like your demo appointments, guys. Like, the hardest part is not booking the appointment. It's not booking the PR. It's not getting them interested in the job. It's actually getting them to show up to the interview, right? People forget when you call these people, half the time they're in school, half the time they're at sports, half the time they're at like home playing video games. They're not really paying attention to like what's going on. Like, you tell them like, yeah, and then they forget what time their interview is. They don't even remember to hop on. They're like at home the next day playing Call of Duty, and they're like, oh shoot, I just missed that job interview at 4:15. So you have to make sure that they take a second to write down the time, write down the office line if they have any questions, make sure that they know that they're checking email. Make sure you guys get the right email from them. If you get the wrong email, they will not get the interview job and they will not show up to the interview if they don't have the right email on file too. So that's more important. That's like giving them the right directions, is like getting the right email address from them too. So like, sometimes you're like, I could barely hear what you said, but I think this is right. Sure. Well, you basically, you're almost like tossing a coin toss on whether or not they're even going to get an email to get showed up to the interview too. So it is ask them for their schedule, repeat it back to them, offer them a first available time. If they can't do that time, I'm going to go ahead and offer them another time. But by the way, before I do that, like, I continue to build urgency. I'm going to say, all right, well, give me a second, Joey. Like, let me see if there's anything else, I can find that we might be able to squeeze you into. And I'll take you an even longer power pause in the second round. Another little kind of fire tip for some of you all that I like to do on when I'm scheduling people is I will walk them through. I'll literally like, I'll do one of these where I'm like, all right, Gabriel, all right, great. I'm going to go ahead and let's see here. Let's see, 3, no, do this. Okay. No, I can't do that. Actually, you know what? Hold on. All right, cool. Yeah, I like you. I can probably set this up. All right, Gabriel, you there? Okay. Good news. I actually was able to squeeze you into our Monday at 6:15 p.m. Can you make that time work?
I'm studying at that time.
I appreciate you role playing with me and stuff like that too. But you guys get the idea. I'm just like, hey, like, I'll literally go like, actually, you know what? Let me see. All right, cool. I could probably make this work, and I'll go ahead and schedule them there too. And again, you're building up urgency for the interview. We have lots of interviews. We're running lots of interviews all the time. But if you give the person the impression like, hey, we'll just give you any interview you want. You just tell us when you want to interview for the job. You're going to lose a lot of people along the way. So next week, to be on the lookout, what we'll do for a little bit of role playing is not some sales stuff, but we'll talk about what happens when you get on the phone with someone like, well, I don't know Joey. You know, one of Julia Ortiz is on this call. She's only here because Eddie Las Cuevas is a master PR caller, and he called someone that was like, hey, look, I don't really know that person, and I'm not looking for work right now. And he pulled a fast one and was referred to another PR who he scheduled that night for an interview, just to hit his PR number for the night, and ended up being one of our top sales reps for the summertime. So knowing how to handle these objections is something we're going to talk about here in a couple of weeks. So we'll wrap up with that. Sent you guys the assignment for the audio journal, and everyone take 30 seconds to a minute to post up whatever your biggest light bulbs were from the call today, and change your backgrounds to the Florida Coast Heat as we get ready to kick things off here. Mike, anything else to add before we kick off for today?
Yeah, I just got it approved. Starts tomorrow. All of you guys can get your best year ever for free. So they're going to do a 5-day promotion. So Thursday through Monday.
Oh,
and
yeah.
in return, if you could give me just a rating and review, that'd be appreciated. So get the book, share it with a bunch of people, and rating and review is always appreciated.
Awesome. Yeah, please do that, by the way. Anytime you guys, I've done that before with the podcast. They do help, and Mike's offering you guys stuff for free. So that's the cost and the fee associated with the free content. Just give them a review there. Takes a couple seconds to type one out, and let's get them to the top of Amazon. One of our vector vets here too. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and give me 3 seconds to switch the keynote here. Everyone else, get your Zoom backgrounds up so everyone knows what they're getting themselves into here for the night. And I will go ahead and pull up our other keynote to kick things off.